Hello there, my name's Prof Jo Szram and I'm the Postgraduate Dean of Kent, Surrey in Sussex. It's very kind of the organisers to give me an opportunity to introduce the conference, even though I can't be there, which I'm very sorry about. But I just wanted to put together a few thoughts about the Supported Return to Training programme and what I think we can focus on thinking about our future plans. As I've put on my first slide, I think it's really important to think about returning to training as an opportunity. And with all opportunities, it's good to plan and prepare for them. And the aim, of course, is to ensure a successful transition to clinical practice. You won't know me, so here's a little summary of my very patchy portfolio career. So just in case you think that there's only one line of career plan for any kind of job, I think I'm probably a good example of a smorgasbord. So you can see all the different jobs I currently have, ones I've done in the past, and how things have changed, and the fact that I've had several jobs at once quite often. But also, as I've put at the bottom, I have a variety of other roles in my life that are really important to me. And it's important to think about all of these when exploring how we work and how we live our lives. So I think about this picture a lot. I think about whether I have balance or not. And I always describe it as a wobble rather than a balance, because it's very uncommon for this perfection to exist in my life. And you can see that on the left, where there's an orange sort of basket with various pots and containers, that's probably my work life, because I always have about 3 roles on the go. And on the right, in the big blue pot, is my very important life of my family and the people that I care about. I would also like you to consider this drawing, which I've borrowed from the leadership programme at Harvard Macy that I went on, and as you can see is used by a number of different people to explain how our plans do not always bear any basis to reality. So what you see now in front of you is someone who's a postgraduate dean and a consultant physician, but actually I've had lots of big dips in the way and a few achievements and some really tough times, and those are, around things like family bereavement, looking after children, juggling the balance of all of those responsibilities, and some career failures as well, where I haven't got jobs or I haven't succeeded with particular parts of my training. And I think it's really important for people like me to be honest with you about the fact that things don't always go to plan. But planning is good, and I think support gives us that opportunity. So why do we have the support programme? For 3 reasons, really. At the time, my colleague Peter Hockey presented a very detailed proposal to the national team at Health Education England to show that trainees really felt very uncertain about the return to training. That at the time there were a lot of evidence for the impact of significant events on people in training. This was around the time of the Balgarba case, and it was a very important and high profile time to consider these things. And the recognised benefit of having a plan before, during and on return, and some targeted support, so not one size fits all, was felt to be really important. What were the common apprehensions? You can sort of group them into these 3. So looking at how we work in emergency situations where we have to make time critical decisions, one of the core functions of a doctor, being confident and not remembering any doses, which I well remember going back to clinical work after a period of research and maternity leave and not really remembering what I was prescribing for a bit. And luckily, systems are there to help us, but it doesn't feel great and you feel pretty vulnerable. There's obviously the juggle of work-life balance, and that might be about children or around partners. It might be around extended family, parents, caring responsibilities, or one's own self-care. And these are all really important aspects of what we need to think about when we come back to training and things may have changed outside of work. And then obviously the need to regain our procedural skills and feeling generally rusty in a role, and that can knock confidence. So what might be different when you return? These are the things that people talked about, and you'll probably have had a lot of experience in this yourself. It's the same as moving to a new organisation, which of course we during training rotate very frequently, and all of these aspects of difference may have an impact and need to be thought about. And obviously, sometimes we feel like this. I feel like this most days, to be fair. So there's a lot of things to think about, and that makes the extra load of a new job or returning to training even more pronounced. And it's important to take a balance on these. Of course, there's something around what do we have control over? Quite a small ring in the middle, what we have influence over, so we can kind of delay or plan around. And then we also have a big heap of worries that we probably don't have any control over, but perhaps keep us awake at night. And it's important to contextualize those. And it's also important to mind the gap. So what is the gap that you've experienced in that time away, and how do we meet our needs? And the parallel to that, of course, is that people who are choosing to come out of training in a more deliberate fashion might be deliberately trying to fill the gap in a different way, but obviously still have to transition back in if they choose to return to training. You may also be aware of this sort of triad that our curricula are based around, so knowledge, skills and attitudes. And all of these skills are really important for us to be able to manage at work. And it's normally a mixture of these three that we have to think about, and around the outside are the solutions to these. We have lots of support available to us, and here is what is available to all trainees should they need it. We don't all use it all of the time, but some really cool relationships here, and a ring of people surrounding you that sometimes you're not too aware of, but are there. So I just wanted to present a few snapshots from the evaluation of the Supported Return to Training programme at Year 3. So this shows an awareness of the programme itself, and what you can see here is that you can see a difference in growth in year of people having an increase in knowledge and understanding of the programme itself, both as people who aren't directly affected but aware, so generally trainees and other colleagues, people in education who understand that there are lots of support there. I do love the fact that there are 3% of DMEs and deans that didn't know about the programme in Year 2, but we'll gloss over that one. And why has that helped? Because local support and initiatives have been really helpful. What you can see here is some information around how confidence and competency and knowledge has improved. We can see that in Year 3 compared to Year 1, we have stable, if not slightly increased, clinical knowledge, a confidence in making decisions, and ability to carry out safe and high quality practice. So a good thing, and there seems to be some improvement even year on year. Some key findings in a top 5 around champions. So champions are more aware of their role. Particularly when they first started, it was really unclear what they were expected to do. And I think a lot of people I've seen have really grown in their role. It's been a brilliant development role for people. And I hope that you found benefit from your champions, both at school or trust level. They seem to be working across the network. They seem to be very good at finding people and raising awareness, so people are being more proactive about their programme. Most people who were talked to in focus groups had engaged with champions, and they felt this was a positive relationship. Trainee role we've talked about, and then obviously the champion perception was that they felt they really did have a benefit, and they were able to work and broker between different stakeholders, so trainees, their supervisors, and the more practical issues around rota as well. I think the programme has changed. You can obviously the pandemic has slightly changed it from everybody going abroad to people taking career breaks. So I'm sure that's part and parcel of what's happened. But increasingly, we know that work-life balance is important to people, and we would rather that people take their time, stay well, and are able to fulfill themselves both personally and professionally, rather than have challenges, risk burnout, and perhaps leave the profession altogether. So it's recognised as a really useful support tool. I've just put this here because I think I'd like to say that support is a bit like a Swiss Army knife. There are lots of bits to it, which you will need various ones, and some you'll never figure out what they're for. But also, I think we as professionals are perhaps a bit like this. We start off not quite knowing what function we're going to have, and perhaps we use different tools at different times or become tools ourselves in different ways in our system. And certainly for me, the consultant job that I started 11 years ago is very different to what I'm doing today. And I anticipate my job will continue to change over the next 20 years while I carry on working. I'd just like to leave you with one other thought, which is for you to think about today and what you're going to reflect on. So as you listen to people, try and take a note or at least a mental note of what you're hearing. And then on the way home, think about what you've learnt. How is that going to change what you do or how you think about things? Otherwise, it's a lovely day out and some networking, but if it doesn't create any change, then it probably isn't going to have the impact that we'd like it to. So make sure you feed back on the day as well, so we know what to do next time. I'll leave you with one bit of advice. I don't normally give advice because I think most people know what they need, but there are two bits of advice, one from me and one from my daughter. So mine is on the right. Stop trying to be liked by everybody. You don't even like everybody. I think it's a very useful bit of advice that I try to follow. And on the left, my lovely daughter wrote this for me as advice of things that I could say to people to make them feel positive. And one of our trainees in paediatrics saw this and has borrowed it for her Instagram day 933 of positive things, which she started, as you can tell, just before the pandemic. So I'm very proud of her, and I'm very proud of you for taking the time to come to this conference and learn more. And I really hope you enjoy the day. Thank you very much.